What's up, nerds? It's your boy, the OGGM. It's about 9 o'clock in the morning. It's the 20th day of September 2022. It's 67 degrees and cloudy here at Site B. It looks like fall might be here, at least for a few minutes before the next round of fire, floods, earthquakes, and rain starts. So I'm going to respond to a question I found online from my buddy DM Curt. And this was a question he posted on Twitter. And it's one I'm going to try and answer. It regards our current favorite topic, 1D&D and Wizards of the Coast. As it appears that Wizards of the Coast is currently pouring all their energy into the digital online model, DM Curt asks, are they still planning on supporting print materials and the friendly local game store model forward, online only, online and print materials to Amazon and big box stores only? So I can't say for 100% sure, but based upon what I know, based upon my understanding of how Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro works, based upon my understanding of how the industry works, I'm going to say yes to all those. Now let's break that down. Is Wizards of the Coast going to go digital? They're going to go take D&D as digital as they can. And they're going to try and control it through their own virtual tabletop and their own digital empire and D&D Beyond. Why would they do this? Simply because it's cheaper. It is less expensive for them to type up a few lines of code, throw it up on the internet, receive a few complaints about how it was wrong, pay some independent contractor a couple bucks to fix the code every now and then when the code is still wrong, they can go, oh, don't worry, we're going to update it. Yeah, it is cheaper in the long run for them to have as much digital stuff as that. If they're not printing stuff, if they're not writing stuff, they don't have to pay. And they can, Hasbro could take money out of Wizards of the Coast and put half that into independent contractors, which we see they're already doing. Trust me, there will be another restructure of Wizards of the Coast before the decade ends. So yeah, and they're if they obviously other digital franchises will still have access to Wizards of the Coast product because they can't not. Wizards of the Coast threw the SRD out there. They threw the OGL out there. They made 5e Common Core. So, and I've already gone over what, the steps are to be 5e adjacent in previous vlogs. But I can do it again if you want me to. So, yeah, digital is the way to go. But will they still make physical copies of the books? Well, yes, they said they will. Dragonlance is coming out this December. There's advertisements and space up for both the regular physical copy, the deluxe edition physical copy, and the digital physical copy. Well, how will that work? How do I go buy the physical at Target? Do I get the digital code from Target? What's to stop somebody from walking into Target, opening up a copy and just taking a picture of the digital code? If you buy the physical book from Wizards of the Coast, they will send you the code you need to get the digital copy on D&D Beyond. No more. They won't give you a PDF. Well, I don't know. They might. But it's probably just going to be on D&D Beyond. If you go to Target and buy the book, it won't have the digital code, and Target won't give you the digital code. The copies that will be on Wizards of the Coast bookshop shelf and the copies that Target receives, unless of course there's a shipping mistake, which there probably will be, whether intentional or accidental, will be different copies. So the ones you buy from Wizards of the Coast, physical copy, Dragonlance, will have the code for digital Dragonlance. If you go to Target and buy Dragonlance, no digital code, unless of course there was a shipping mistake, which of course suggests that Wizards of the Coast might slip some out in public on purpose, which they probably will. Now, what is the future of physical products? less and less at stores, definitely less and less at friendly game stores. You will still be able to buy them from Wizards of the Coast online, but what you're probably going to see is we're going to drift away from, the $23, $40 model to the deluxe edition 100+ model that we've already seen. So like the stuff you see at Beatles and Grimm with the deluxe covers, or those alternate covers that Wizards of the Coast has put out that cost, double what a regular copy will cost. That's probably what you're going to see, because it's more cost effective for them to make the super digital special deluxe alternate cover shit than it is for them to make the regular shit. Super duper nerd collectors will buy both. They'll buy the super deluxe ones and they'll buy the regular ones. If they start to peter off on the regular ones and focus more on the special deluxe ones, they're still going to sell. And it's more profit to them. It costs them the same amount of money to make a super deluxe one as it does a regular one. But they can charge you more because it's super deluxe. Okay? So yeah, you'll probably see more of the super deluxe, extra expensive ones that I'm always talking about. Less and less of the normal books. The normal books will be available directly from Wizards of the Coast, but you're probably going to see a peter off at like Amazon and big box stores. And the ones you do see at like Target and Amazon, the Amazon ones will probably be Amazon exclusive. The ones you see at Target will probably only be like the basic stuff, like the Player's Handbook. But you'll probably also see the super special box sets. Will Wizards of the Coast continues to support small mom and pop stores as opposed to big box stores? And we talked about the special deal Wizards of the Coast had with Target for the very first time, where they made the stuff available at Target a month before they made it available anywhere else. And oh my God, they've never done that before, except of course that was 100% bullshit. They've had a special deal with Target for years. There are limited edition Transformers and limited edition Power Ranger figures that only Amazon and Target get that you can't get anywhere else. There were limited special runs of Magic cards that you could only get at Target and Amazon and nowhere else. And when they started doing D&D with Target and Amazon, there were limited edition special runs with Amazon and Target for D&D that you couldn't get anywhere else. Thus the box set. So when the box set was at, Dragons of Those Aren't the Fucking Kids on the box was at Target, it's not the first time. So people going around and saying, oh, Wizards of the Coast have never done this before. It's like, no, that's bullshit. They've been doing it for years. Just look at the Power Rangers Lightning Collection that you can only get at some Targets, Yeah. So in regards to supporting big box, they will still support big box, and they will probably still do things where they have, here's the super special secret Magic set that you can only get at Target. Here's the super special secret alternate cover D&D set you can only get at Target that we're going to release later on. But it's also on our website. Now, sadly, who's going to suffer the most is your small mom and pop stores, your Seth's Games and Animes, your North Coast Role Playing, your Around the Tables. They are going to be last to the print, unfortunately. If digital gets it first, Target gets it second, friendly local game stores will get it third. And if you're aware of the deal for small mom and pop friendly local game stores, it's basically the only way you can get the D&D stuff, the bare minimum D&D stuff, is if you order X amount of Magic cards. So I think it's like 20 to 1. I'm not sure. When I worked at Seth's, it was pretty much 20 to 1. For every 20 packs of 20 boxes of Magic cards, they'd send you one box with the D&D stuff or stuff like that. I don't know what the deal is now. I'd have to ask at my friendly local game store, but the deal is still the same. In order to get bare minimum one copy of the Player's Handbook at a friendly local game store, you have to order X amount of Magic cards and then they'll send you the D&D stuff. The D&D stuff is bare minimum. anything special that they, like the Player's Handbook you'll get, but if you want to get a copy of Radiant Citadel, that's usually coming out of the friendly local game store's pocket. They'll get a very limited release of Radiant Citadel, and then it'll be like impossible for them to get it again. And considering if you go into any friendly local game store, and I know this is true because I was just in Dreamworld Collectibles, you're probably going to see the ones still sitting there. There's still Radiant Citadels and Call of the Netherdeeps and Ravenlofts and Strixhaven sitting on the shelf. And I know for a fact they have not moved. I mean, not only have they not sold, I can tell you from up to the day that CES closed, from the day they got their copies of Strixhaven and Call of the Netherdeep and Radiant Citadel to the day CES closed its doors, those 4 copies of Strixhaven sat on the shelf in the exact same spot. No one touched them. No one bought them. You could see the dust around them. But Seth still had to carry them at a loss in order to get the amount of Magic cards. You have to sell a certain amount of Magic cards to get the D&D stuff, and you have to sell a certain amount of D&D stuff to get the more D&D stuff. And if you want something that's not D&D, like if I order the D&D stuff from Wizards of the Coast, but I want to order Pathfinder from Paizo, Wizards of the Coast states that the first thing people see when they walk into your friendly local game store has to be Magic and has to be D&D. You cannot have the D&D stuff on the same shelf with the Paizo stuff and even more obscure stuff like Rifts. There has to be an amount of space between them. So the very first thing people see is the D&D stuff. That has to be front and center. And if you're going to carry the rest of the stuff, it has to be someplace else in the store. Now, obviously, Wizards of the Coast has no way of checking up on there. There's not like they have Wizards of the Coast secret shoppers. No, they don't. They'll tell you have to do it, but they don't really care. They already know they've made their money off of you from the Magic cards, so they don't really care what, if anything, you do with the D&D stuff. So even though it technically says you have to order this much Dungeons and Magic the cards to get the D&D stuff, and if you order more Magic cards, we'll send you the standees and the special posters for the D&D stuff. But you're only going to ever going to get X amount of D&D stuff. And once it sells out, other than the basic books, you're probably not going to get it again. If you manage to sell all those Radiant Citadels, we're probably not going to send you another Radiant Citadel. If you do want one, that's going to be money out of your own pocket at full diamond retail. And then that stuff cannot be next to the Paizo stuff. It has to be separate. If you get one of those standees of, I don't know, Minxed and Boo, it cannot be in the same window with the standee of Boba Fett or the standee of the chick from Paizo. Now, pretty much every friendly local game store puts them on the same shelves, puts them next to each other. But even then, you'll notice that if you go down the line, 9 out of 10 times the D&D stuff is first, gets the most prominent space, and everything else kind of gets the second prominent space. Go into Barnes & Noble and see how the D&D stuff is placed compared, and the Magic stuff is placed compared to, say, the Paizo stuff, which, for a while was selling as much, if not more, than D&D. The D&D stuff is usually in that prime retail spot, that prime spot, real estate on the shelves at your friendly local game store. Same with big box. If Target's got the special D&D stuff and Target also wants to carry, say, Exploding Kittens or Cards Against Humanity or Pandemic, that D&D stuff is going to get front and center, the best real estate, and then everything else will get second base. Why? Because Target knows that if they maintain the special relationship with Wizards of the Coast, they will continue to get the limited edition Hasbro shit that is specifically designed for them. And yes, there is a deal between Target and Hasbro. There's a deal between Amazon and Hasbro. There's a deal between Walmart and Hasbro. The 3 big boxes get limited edition stuff specifically designed for them. And they're expected to sell a certain amount of limited edition stuff to get more limited edition stuff. And in the great scheme of things, when Wizards of the Coast hands their quarterly reports to Hasbro, Hasbro compares how much Magic is sold, how much D&D has sold, compared to how much Power Rangers has sold, how much Transformers has sold, how much My Little Pony has sold. And then they're going to go, what's making us the most money? Is it D&D? No. Is it Magic? Hell fucking yes. Is it Power Rangers? Oh my god, yes. We just spent $25 million on Power Rangers. Is it Transformers? Oh god, yes. Is it My Little Pony? My Little Pony breaks the bank. Yes, that's billions of dollars. Which means there's no incentive for Hasbro to focus on physical print Dungeons & Dragons. Because it's cheaper to go digital. It's more cost effective to make the super special deluxe $100 plus D&D stuff than it is to make the regular old boring D&D books, Because, secretly, it costs Hasbro the exact same amount of money to make a super deluxe edition Dungeons & Dragons book as it does to make the regular book. But because it's super deluxe, they can charge you more. And therefore, they're making profit. Now, Magic is pretty much 90% profit. So that's always going to be number one as far as Hasbro's concerned. Which is why the deal is Magic first, D&D second, everybody else third. If you want Magic, you got to carry this much D&D. If you want this much D&D, you got to carry and sell this much Magic. If you want the super special stuff, you got to carry and sell this much Magic. But we're not going to send you that super special stuff a second time. If you want it a second time, that's right out of your pocket, straight through Diamond. Not from us. We'll say when we get it back in stock, we'll send it to you, but they won't because Magic is our money. And when it comes to D&D money, I'm sorry to certain individuals who are going to say, no, I'm wrong, but the numbers speak for themselves. D&D IP is worth more to Hasbro than D&D the game. If you look at the amount of money the name Dungeons & Dragons makes Hasbro compared to the amount of money the actual Player's Handbook or Dragons of Stormwick Isle or Spelljammer makes them, the IP is worth more than the role-playing game. Because Dungeons & Dragons The Lunchbox makes them more money than a Dungeons & Dragons Player's Handbook. Dungeons & Dragons Toys makes them more money than a Dungeons & Dragons Player's Handbook. Dungeons & Dragons figures, those little WizKid figures, and the Bones figures and everything else, anything that has any connection, even no matter how slight, to D&D, that's pennies on the dollar for Hasbro. The IP is worth more than the game. The merchandising of Dungeons & Dragons is worth more than the physical product. So again, they're going to focus less on physical books because it's just not cost effective for them. Digital is more cost effective than physical. Special editions is more cost effective than regular. Special deals with Target and Amazon and Walmart is more cost effective than deals with friendly local game stores. Magic the Gathering is worth more to them at a friendly local game store than Dungeons & Dragons is. If you look at the bottom line for Hasbro, who controls Wizards of the Coast, not the other way around. I'm sorry if you think otherwise. But no, it's Hasbro controls Wizards of the Coast. Wizards of the Coast does not control Hasbro. The way the money trickles down, yeah, to answer your question, DMs Curt, yes, they will still make physical product, but not the way we're used to it. Which is sad, but that's the way capitalism works. And if you don't like it, you could take one of two choices. You can make a bunch of videos telling me I'm wrong. You can throw a bunch of insults at me, and you can throw a bunch of insults at Wizards of the Coast, or you could simply stop buying their product and stop talking about them. If you do not give Wizards of the Coast attention, they lose money. Anyways, DM Curt, I hope I answered your question. Support me, Soda. I will sell out. Speaking of selling out, I am the OG GM. If you appreciate this content, let me know. If you think I'm wrong, let me know. If you think I'm right, let me know. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Help support the OG GM adventure. Support, subscribe, like, share. Shout out to DM's Curt, and I will talk to you later. Now go buy me some Lightning Collection Power Rangers figures, you marks.